Hey guys, so I'm gonna be giving you my first impressions of Rasasi Hawas. I have a decant of it right here, and I'm gonna be telling you whether I think this is worth purchasing a full bottle of. I've had it for a day or two, so it's not really the very first spray, but of course I like to review fragrance when I have a complete understanding of it. But this one, I'm just gonna be giving you my initial thoughts because it is new to me, and I did get interested in it recently, and I think it's a good one. It's actually a very impressive juice. It comes from the house of Rasasi, which I'm not so familiar with. All I know is that it's an Arabic, kind of Middle Eastern company, and this particular fragrance gets talked about because it gets compared a lot to Invictus Aqua 2016. I haven't smelled that original formulation, but I don't own a full bottle of Invictus. I think it's a great scent, and it's Invictus Aqua especially I do like. It's just not my style of fragrance, especially nowadays. My taste has changed and gone a little bit more kind of classic, fougere. So it's really not my thing, but I do appreciate it as a nice fresh scent. Now this one, I just, got curious, wanted to sample it, and very few times, I kind of have expectations for a fragrance, and the scent exceeds my expectations, and it was the case here. I was not blown away, but I really, really liked it because it filled the gaps for me. There's a reason why I didn't personally own Invictus Aqua, despite liking it. I don't really like aquatic scents so much, but this one is an aquatic with depth. So you might think, being a sort of Middle Eastern house, especially with the comparison with Invictus Aqua, you start to wonder, is this a clone? I'll tell you right away that, it's not a clone. Actually, Invictus Aqua came out in 2016 and Rasasi Hawas in 2015. If anything, could have been inspired by the original Invictus that came out in 2013. And there's some, if you look at the notes, there's some, similarity between all three of these fragrances. This also gets compared to Mont Blanc Legend Spirit. I get that a little bit. I did own Legend Spirit for a while. It's a nice kind of cheap scent, right? But to me, Legend Spirit, in the dry down was a little bit too, I didn't like the synthetic quality of it. It was too sharp, right? And it was a musky sharpness that I didn't like. That was kind of too pungent on my nose. I was looking for something more smoothed out. And then this also gets, it's interestingly, I've heard mention of it being compared to Green Irish Tweed. And that kind of surprises me, but I do see now where that comes from. There are shared kind of notes of the combination of violet and ambergris can give off that similar feel, but the lemon opening of Green Irish Tweed is totally different in my opinion. And just the herbal, kind of leafy nature and the natural smell of Green Irish Tweed, definitely you don't get that here. It's nothing like that. It does strongly resemble Invictus Aqua, but I'll tell you kind of why I think this one is unique and special. So let's give it a spray. Yeah, so first thing to know, it's a strong fragrance. I would go, I already have the dry down here, which I'll kind of reference. But wow, man, this is all about the opening, really. The opening is magic. It is synthetic, but I don't know. You do get like an aquatic feel and something, along the lines of Invictus Aqua. But what separates this is there's this kind of depth and like a woodiness and a muskiness. And yes, it's synthetic, but I don't know what it is, but there's some sort of richness, and it feels like an eau de parfum. That's sort of like the first thought I had in terms of that richness, but this projects like a beast. And when I I just checked actually Rasasi's website, and it is an eau de parfum concentration, and that accounts for some of the richness that I feel. But I think it's also the composition. So let's take a look at the notes, just for reference. We don't have to obsess about notes, but have it popped up there. So this one on Fragrantica, so Fragrantica lists a certain combination of notes, but I don't think it's a complete list, because Rasasi's website also lists some other notes. So Fragrantica lists up top bergamot, apple, cinnamon, lemon, and then watery notes, plum, orange blossom, cardamom, and then in the base ambergris, musk, driftwood, and patchouli, right? And when I saw this, I thought, wow, okay, this is a mass appealing composition for sure, right? I can already tell sort of where this is going. Now it opens up, like I said, watery, fresh, but with a strength, like, a richness about it. It's not a light fragrance, light wearing fragrance. And, the notes, there are citruses, and then on Fragrantica, apple, and on Rasasi's website, they list melon. And what I get is sort of, at times, I get like a berry accord, like a berry juiciness, and then it shifts a little bit. Sometimes I get a melony flavor, and melon, in fact, is a note that Rasasi lists. And then I guess that's sort of, the green apple that's listed on Fragrantica. And then, of course, bergamot is there too. There's some citrus mixing in there. So it's this sort of kind of apple, melon, whatever you want to call it, but a juicy, very mouth-watering, fruity top. And what I was concerned about, I didn't really have to be concerned because I got a decant, but in terms of buying a full bottle, I was worried. I was going to blind by this, and I was worried that it might be too sweet, too cloying, and too fruity. But it actually is not, surprisingly. And that, I don't like overly sweet fragrances or overly sharp, overly kind of synthetic feeling. I hate to say that, but you know what that feel is. I don't like those fragrances. And I still like this. Yes, it's synthetic, but it's smooth. Very quickly, so that sort of watery feel goes away within a minute or two, actually. And now I'm already into the dry down. And let me just compare it to the longer dry down. It's similar, but there's a floral kind of component that I think distinguishes Hawas as well. And it makes it not just a boring aquatic scent. And the listed note is orange blossom, but I get like a floral note peeping through, and then it certainly is musky, and this is where you get sort of the similarity to Mont Blanc's Legend Spirit, but this seems to be a bit more refined than that. And the other thing that makes this scent kind of unique is there's a bit of like spiciness, and there's of course cinnamon, and the cinnamon, if I hadn't seen the note, maybe I wouldn't have immediately thought of cinnamon, because of that blend with the fruity notes. But when you see the note, you see that it's there, right? And that's what's giving it this spicy element. I mean, ultimately cinnamon, is a spice, right? And it gives it a little bit of warmth and coziness. And this is a great summer scent, but it has this depth, right? And it's this very interesting blend, right? Of cinnamon with aquatic notes, with, some florals, violet and orange blossom, and then all on top of a woody, musky base. That's what I get from this fragrance. And it's just done so well. I mean, it's just a rich juice. And I think that it is blind buy worthy. I would actually recommend, if you don't want to bother with a decant, I think it's a pretty safe blind buy, just because of this, scent profile. It's a very mass appealing scent. I would pick this any day over most of the sort of aquatic designer scents we have on the market today. Maybe one that I might prefer is something like Aquatic Profondo, a blue scent that's, I think, a little bit, more tame than this kind of scent. But if you really are into sort of scents that really project, right? This one or two sprays and I already filled the room, right? And I remember when the decant arrived, as soon as I opened the envelope, the whole bag was, package was smelling of this, right? It's that sort of fragrance. And of course, there must be a lot of aroma chemicals in there to give it that strength, right? The potency. But the way, I think it's the composition that makes this interesting, right? Now, when you have a fragrance that's compared to Invictus Aqua, Mongban Legend Spirit, and Green Irish Tweed at the same time, like there's something there, right? That you want to discover, right? Because they're not anything similar, Green Irish Tweed and Invictus Aqua. Violet can be off-putting. It's a tough note, I think, to like for most people, but if with a small dose of it, right, mixed just right, it adds this sort of like bitterness, and I don't know what it is. It's sort of like an elevating kind of ozonic quality, and I think that gives it, at least in part, that gives it this aquatic quality. But this one, like I said, it's musky, and you could almost say it has a little bit of a saltiness as well. It's a salty wood kind of feel, right? And when I smelled it, I was also reminded of, there's a creaminess about it, and I was reminded of a sandalwood note. And I saw in Fragrantica it wasn't listed, but actually, in fact, when I checked on Rasasi's website, there it is described in there, sandalwood. So there is a mix of sandalwood, and what's listed on Fragrantica is driftwood. But what you could take away is that it's sort of, there's a creaminess, right? This mix of ambergris, musk, and sandalwood. A creaminess, but a sort of kind of not peppery, but it's maybe a little punchy, kind of spicy feel. That again can be from different notes, but can be from a mix of patchouli, but also the cinnamon. And then the fruit is sort of just gone by now. There's just the kind of remaining hint of it, but it doesn't have that overly fresh melon opening. And I think, it's still very nice in the dry down, but it's one of those fragrances that comes out ultra strong, right? Where the opening is just pure magic. I think it's beautiful despite feeling a little bit synthetic, and then it dries down into a nice base that's comparable to a lot of different fragrances. Even a lot of niche fragrances, dry down into a more kind of simple, boring base. This kind of reminds me of, when I tested Parfum de Marly's Greenlee, right? I think I talked about how, the opening was so nice. It had the juicy apple, and then it's just a simple, generic, musky base. Well, you get a little bit of that here as well. It becomes a more generic, musky base, but like I said, it's the richness and the creaminess and the strong performance of this that really separates this from those other scents. It just carries weight, for a long time, and this would be a good sort of, it's a good playful scent, a good kind of summer scent. And I think for me, maybe it's a little bit too sweet for really hot days. I prefer more transparent scents, maybe more kind of dry citrusy scents, herbals. But, this would be a great summer scent. And just a nice alternative to, Invictus Aqua and fragrances of that sort. Value-wise, I heard that this used to be cheaper, but now it's going for about $60-$70. So it's not cheap, but I do think that it's worth that money. You're getting an eau de parfum that's, has a twist on fragrances that you're familiar with. And to me, it improves on these other scents, giving it more depth and woodiness, and just a nice mixture that's a little bit different. And definitely you could detect the difference, right? It's something that's semi-familiar, but you think, oh, okay, there's something different about this, right? And that's what this scent is. Again, totally recommend it. I think that it's worth $60 blind buy. If you can find it at that price, I would definitely pick it up. Let me know if you've tried this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.